The wind howled across the rig like a freight train from hell. 40 feet above the gulf, I hung off the side of platform 7, tightening a rusted valve while the ocean raged below me. My gloves were slick with oil and sweat. The sun was a white flame in the Houston sky, burning everything it touched. I wasn't thinking about danger. I was thinking about my daughter's laugh, Daisy's goofy little snort when she told a bad joke, and about Noah, who'd been asking if I could make it to his baseball game next weekend. I'd promised I would. I meant it this time. Then my phone buzzed inside my chest pocket. No one texts a man mid-shift unless it's urgent. I hooked my wrench, wiped my hands, and checked the screen. Vanessa, I'm leaving you. Don't call. The kids are with me. You'll hear from my lawyer. The words didn't land at first. They just hung there, black on gray, until the sun's glare blurred them. Then it hit. For a second, the entire world went silent. No waves, no wind, no metal clanging. Just that one message burning into my skull. 14 years of marriage, 2 kids, a mortgage, and 1,000 late-night promises, all erased in 13 words. I nearly dropped the phone into the gulf. Tom! Big Mike's voice boomed from below. You good up there? Big Mike was my foreman, 6.5 feet of barbecue-fed muscle and a heart like a bulldozer. He knew every man on this platform like family. Yeah, I lied. My voice cracked. Just taking a minute. I climbed down slow, boots clanging against the steel ladder. The moment my feet hit solid ground, I called the house. Disconnected. Called again. Same thing. I tried Vanessa's number, straight to voicemail. My hands were shaking, and it wasn't from the climb. Mike took one look at me and frowned. Talk to me. She's gone, I said quietly. Took the kids. Took everything. He didn't ask who she was. He just put a massive hand on my shoulder and said, "Then we'll find her." That's the thing about oil men, we fix what's broken. We don't sit around waiting for miracles. By the time I reached my truck, my entire life had already started unraveling. My bank app showed $46.82 in checking. Savings? Closed. Mortgage account? Frozen. Vanessa had planned this. Down to the last cent. I sat there staring through the windshield at nothing until a horn blared behind me. Rick Alvarez's old Ford, the color of dust and regret, pulled up beside me. Rick and I had worked the rigs together for a decade before he left to become a private investigator. He was my best friend, the kind of man who could track a ghost through a sandstorm. He took one look at my face and muttered, "Hell. Who died?" "My marriage." Rick killed the engine. "Talk." I showed him the text. He read it once, then again, his expression going dark. "She took the kids? And the money?" Rick whistled low. "You got her GPS turned off?" "She turned off everything." He tapped his phone, already scrolling. "Give me 10 minutes. I know people." While he worked, I stared out over the field of rigs stretching into the horizon, giant skeletons in the heat haze. Each one a piece of my life. 15 years I'd given this industry. 15 years of busted knuckles, missed holidays, and empty promises. And now I had nothing to show for it but calluses and a text message. Rick's phone dinged. "Got her," he said. "Palm Springs. Bought a place last week. Under a new account name." My jaw tightened. "With what money?" He looked at me. "Yours." That night, I packed a duffel bag with work clothes, a toothbrush, and a worn-out photo of my kids at the state fair. Daisy was missing a tooth in the picture. Noah was holding the giant stuffed elephant I'd won for her. I sat on the edge of my bed, that photo in my hands, and felt the house breathing around me, the hum of the fridge, the ticking clock, the silence in between. It wasn't a home anymore. Just a shell. I could have called a lawyer. I could have waited for the system. But I knew how that game went. Men like me, blue-collar, grease-stained, invisible, we don't win in court. We win by outworking. Outlasting. Outsmarting. When I turned off the lights and stepped outside, The Texas sky stretched wide and endless above me. Rick's truck waited at the curb, headlights low. "You ready?" he asked. I looked back once at the house, the ghost of the life I'd built, then climbed in. "Yeah," I said. "Let's bring my family home." The engine roared to life, and for the first time that day, I felt something sharp and alive move in my chest. Not anger. Not grief. Purpose. And that's when I knew, if she thought she could take everything and disappear into the desert, she'd forgotten what kind of man she married. She might have stolen my money, but I was coming for my soul. And she didn't have enough miles of sand between us to stop me. The road to Palm Springs stretched out like a scar across the desert, long, sun-bleached, and endless. Rick's truck rattled down the highway, the radio mumbling low country static between bursts of silence. 20 hours behind the wheel gave a man too much time to think. Every mile between Houston and California was a memory I didn't ask for. Daisy's first steps in our kitchen, Noah's 5th birthday with the cheap balloon arch Vanessa insisted on. The way she'd once kissed me on a payday Friday and said, "We're building something real, Tom." She wasn't wrong. She just forgot who laid the foundation. "Still quiet back there?" Rick asked, breaking the silence. "Too quiet." He nodded, eyes on the road. "That's when they're either feeling guilty, or planning something." Vanessa had always been a planner. Calculated, precise, never spontaneous, not even when she smiled. If she was gone, she'd made sure she couldn't be found. Which made me wonder why she hadn't erased every trace. Rick had found her too easily. That meant something was off. We hit Palm Springs just before dawn. The desert didn't wake up like most places. It simmered, slow and cruel, light dripping over red rock and palm trees like molten glass. The air was so dry it burned. Desert Vista Estates looked like it belonged in a magazine, gates of polished steel, streets lined with imported palms, houses big enough to hold small armies. And somewhere behind those walls, my kids were eating breakfast with the man who called himself Tyler Becker, entrepreneur. Rick parked a block away and killed the lights. "Nice neighborhood," he muttered. "You could fit 4 of your old house in one of these." "Yeah," I said. "All bought with someone else's sweat." He scanned the area with binoculars, then grunted. "There. BMW in the driveway. White one." I didn't need binoculars to know whose it was. Vanessa had always wanted one. Said it fit her personality. I remember telling her once that dreams didn't come with leather seats. We waited 3 hours before she finally appeared. She looked like she'd stepped out of a commercial, blonde streaks, gold bracelets, a body built for yoga and deception. Rick lowered the binoculars. "That's her?" "Yeah." "She looks expensive." "Yeah," I said again, my jaw tight. "That's the problem." We watched her drive off, top down, music loud. Then we moved in. Rick picked the gate in under a minute. The man had a gift. Inside, the backyard looked like a resort, pool, cabana, the smell of chlorine and citrus in the heat. Through the glass doors I saw them, my kids. Noah at the counter, stirring cereal. Daisy swinging her legs from a stool, wearing a pink nightgown I didn't recognize. She laughed at something Noah said. Then he walked in. Tyler. Barefoot, shirtless, holding a protein shake like a trophy. He said something I couldn't hear, but Daisy's smile vanished. Rick's hand landed on my arm before I even realized I'd moved. "Not yet," he whispered. "Not like this." I froze, nails biting into my palms. Through the glass, I watched Tyler lean over, point, say something sharp. Noah's shoulders hunched. Daisy dropped her spoon. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just betrayal. It was danger. We backed away slowly, hearts pounding. When we hit the street again, Rick exhaled hard. "She's not the same woman, man," he said. "Whatever happened to her, she's gone." "No," I said quietly. "She's still in there somewhere. She just buried herself under the lies." He looked at me sideways. "You planning to dig her out or bury her deeper?" I didn't answer. That night we checked into a cheap motel off Gene Autry Trail. The sign outside flickered desert palms in, though only one palm tree still stood. The air conditioner coughed like it was dying, and the room smelled like cigarettes and bleach. Rick set up his laptop, fingers flying. "You want to see something fun?" I nodded. He turned the screen. "Your boy Tyler's got a past. Mugshots. Charges. Distribution with intent. Fake supplement scams. DA watch list." I felt something heavy settle in my chest. "And she's living with him." "Worse," Rick said. "She's letting him near your kids." That was the moment the fear turned into focus. "We need proof," I said. Rick nodded. "Already on it." He opened a case from the truck, camera lenses, listening bugs, long-distance mics. The man came prepared for war. I stared out the window at the desert night, vast, empty, and full of eyes. Somewhere beyond the heat shimmer, my children were sleeping under a stranger's roof, and my ex-wife was pretending this was normal. She thought she'd traded up. But she didn't realize I wasn't coming to beg. I was coming to expose. Because when you take everything from a man who's already lost once, he stops caring about what's fair. He starts caring about what's right. And that's the kind of man I was becoming. The desert night was so still, even the wind sounded suspicious. From the parking lot of the Desert Palms Inn, I could see the soft glow of Palm Springs sprawled beneath the mountains. Too perfect, too distant. It looked like a place where people pretended they'd never sinned. Inside, Rick's laptop hummed softly on the table, showing live feeds from the cameras we'd planted earlier that day, one hidden in the hedge, another angled at the kitchen window, and a mic installed near the poolside speaker. All we needed now was noise. And we got plenty of it. Music thumped through the speakers of Vanessa's new palace. Dozens of strangers moved in and out, carrying red cups, laughing too loud. Rick zoomed in on one of the frames. "Those are pills," he said flatly. "White caps. Too uniform to be vitamins." I leaned closer. In the corner of the frame, Tyler stood near the pool, shirtless, of course, handing out tiny baggies like they were party favors. "Tell me that's not what I think it is," I whispered. "Oh, it's exactly that," Rick said. "He's distributing from your house. With your kids upstairs." That's when I made my decision. "I'm going in." Rick looked up, alarmed. "Tom, don't, they're in there with the dealer, Rick. You expect me to sit here and watch?" He rubbed his temples, muttering. "You're gonna get both of us arrested." "Then bail me out," I said, grabbing my jacket. I didn't wait for him to argue. I parked 2 streets over and came in from the rear gate, hugging the shadows. The sound of music and laughter bled through the night, loud enough to mask my footsteps. When I reached the backyard, the pools shimmered under neon lights, a perfect scene for people who'd never known struggle. Through the window upstairs, I saw Daisy's nightlight, a tiny unicorn glowing faintly purple. That was all I needed. I climbed the trellis, vines scratching my arms. The window was cracked open, just enough. I slipped through, careful not to wake her. She was curled around that same stuffed elephant I'd won at the fair years ago. Her hair was messy, her breathing soft. For the first time in weeks, the ache in my chest eased. I knelt beside her and whispered, "Hey, baby." Her eyes fluttered open. The second she recognized me, she gasped. "Daddy?" "Sure. It's okay. I just wanted to see you." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Are we going home?" "Soon," I promised. "But I need your help first." I pulled out a tiny recording bug Rick had given me, no bigger than a shirt button. "See this? I'm gonna hide it in Mr. Elephant's ear. You keep him close, okay? He's gonna help Daddy keep you safe." She nodded solemnly, trusting me the way only a child can. "Tyler's mean," she whispered. "He yells at Mommy. He scares Noah." I felt the heat rise in my throat. "Did he hurt you?" She shook her head. "Not me. But he throws things." I kissed her forehead. "It's gonna be okay, sweetheart. I promise." Then I slipped back out the window. Rick was waiting by the gate when I landed. "You insane bastard!" he hissed. "You could have blown everything." "Didn't. We're good." I held up the phone. "And now we've got ears inside." He wanted to argue, but the look in my eyes shut him down. For the next week, we barely slept. Every night, we sat in that motel, listening. At first, it was mundane, dishes clinking, kids laughing faintly, background music. Then came the fights. Vanessa and Tyler screamed at each other, about money, about trust, about shipments. On the fifth night, everything changed. Tyler's voice came through the static. "Carlos said the border's clean next week. We moved the stuff, we're golden." Vanessa's voice was shaky. "You want to smuggle across with the kids in the car? They don't check kids' luggage, babe. It's perfect." There was a long silence. Then she said, "What about Tom?" "Forget him. He's broke, he's done. You've got custody. He's got nothing." The recording went silent again, just faint music in the background. I stared at Rick. "They're using my kids to move drugs across the border." Rick was already on the phone. "I'm calling the feds." 6 hours later, a knock rattled our motel door. FBI agent Andrew McCall stepped in, tall, tired, and sharp-eyed. He listened to the recording without a word, then said quietly, "We've been watching Becker for months. You two just gave us everything we needed. What happens now?" I asked. "We let them go through with it," McCall said. "Catch them at the crossing. Clean arrest. No loose ends." I slammed my hand against the table. "You're not using my kids as bait." McCall's gaze didn't waver. "Mr. Galloway, I understand your concern. But if we move too early, Becker walks. The cartel gets spooked. Your kids are safest if we control the scene." I stared at him for a long moment, jaw tight. Rick spoke first. "Tom, he's right." I turned away, fists clenched so tight my knuckles popped. For the first time, I wasn't sure if I wanted justice or revenge. But one thing was certain: if anything happened to my kids, there wouldn't be a court left standing that could hold me. 3 days. That's how long the FBI said it would take for Vanessa and Tyler to make their move. 72 hours of waiting, knowing my kids were sitting in that house, sleeping under a ticking bomb. Rick kept saying patience was strategy. But patience felt a lot like failure. The desert palms and had become a bunker of insomnia. Every night, I'd sit by the window, listening to the faint hum of the desert and the whisper of static from Daisy's listening bug. Each sound meant they were still alive. Each silence felt like death. On the first night, I heard Daisy humming herself to sleep. On the second, Noah asking when they could go home. By the third, Vanessa was crying. Her voice cracked through the feed like a confession. "This isn't what I wanted, Tyler. I thought we were leaving for a fresh start, not running pills." Tyler's voice was all venom. "You wanted money, babe. You wanted the good life. Well, it costs." I gripped the table so hard my knuckles turned white. Rick muted the feed. "You need to keep your head straight, Tom. We're almost there." "She's not evil," I muttered. "Just blind." He looked at me like I'd grown another head. "You still defending her after all this?" I didn't answer. Because I wasn't defending her. I was trying to understand the woman I used to love and why she'd built a life out of lies. By the second night, the FBI operation was in motion. McCall and his agents occupied 2 rooms down the hall. Maps, laptop screens, and coffee cups covered every flat surface. He pointed to a highway route on the map. "They'll leave Palm Springs, head north to Vegas, then up the I-5 to the Canadian border. We'll have agents tailing the car from Mile 1. "And what do I do?" I asked. "You stay out of the way." He didn't say it to be cruel. He said it because that's how law enforcement keeps control. But these weren't his kids. When the agents left to prep the route, Rick turned to me. "He's right, you know. If you go rogue now, you'll blow everything." I stared at the map. "I just want to be there when it happens. When they're safe." Rick hesitated. You're not gonna like what I'm thinking. Try me. He sighed. We follow them. Quietly. McCall won't like it, but if something goes south, you'll be there. I nodded. Then we're going. The next morning, we were on the move before sunrise. Vanessa's BMW rolled out of Desert Vista Estates, gleaming white in the dawn. Tyler was driving, Vanessa in the passenger seat. In the back, I saw Daisy's unicorn backpack. The same one he'd used to hide the drugs. I followed at a distance, my truck blending into the stream of travelers. Rick manned the dash camera, feeding updates to McCall's team. For the first 100 miles, everything was quiet. Then, somewhere near Barstow, Vanessa turned in her seat. Through the zoom lens, I saw her face in profile, pale, strained. She was crying again. She's cracking, Rick muttered. Good. Maybe she'll make a mistake. Or maybe she'll finally realize who she's chained herself to. The drive stretched into eternity. Desert became mountains. Mountains became rain. The BMW never slowed. By the time we reached the Washington border, my body was running on caffeine and fury. McCall's convoy was already in position near the crossing, unmarked vans tucked behind rest areas, agents posing as border guards. This is it, he said over the radio. They cross, we move. Rick cut the engine and turned to me. You good? I shook my head. No. But that's never stopped me. Time crawled. From where we sat, I could see the checkpoint ahead, a small lane of cars inching forward under a gray, bruised sky. Then I saw it. Vanessa's BMW. Tyler's head leaned toward the border officer, charm painted over panic. He handed over passports. The officer smiled, nodded, waved them through. What the hell? I hissed. They're letting them cross. McCall's voice crackled through the radio. Hold positions. Canadian units are in play. The BMW rolled forward, 30 feet, 50. Then, red and blue lights exploded from both sides. SUVs boxed them in. Doors flew open. Agents swarmed the car like a flash flood. Go, go, go! McCall shouted. Rick grabbed my shoulder. Tom, wait! But I was already running. I broke through the perimeter just as agents pulled Tyler out of the driver's seat. He fought, shouting, his perfect smile gone. Vanessa screamed as they yanked open the back door. Noah stumbled out first, eyes wide and terrified. Then Daisy. Daddy! Her voice cracked through the chaos, slicing clean through the sirens. I caught her mid-run, her small arms locking around my neck like she was anchoring me to life. It's okay, I whispered, my voice breaking. You're safe now. I've got you. Behind us, agents tore open the trunk, pulling out suitcases with false bottoms. Inside, the proof. 2 kilos of pills, hidden under a stuffed unicorn and a stack of clothes. Rick reached me, breathing hard. It's over, man. I looked past him, at Vanessa, sitting on the pavement, shaking, mascara streaked down her face. No, I thought. It's not over. Not yet. Mr. Galloway, she said, voice even. Your counsel may begin. My lawyer, Patricia Simmons, stood, small, composed, razor-sharp. Your Honor, this case is not about marital discord. It's about endangerment. Mrs. Galloway forged legal documents, abducted 2 minors across state lines, and knowingly exposed them to narcotics trafficking. Vanessa's attorney, a slick man in an expensive suit, cut in. Objection. My client was manipulated by a known felon she chose to live with, Patricia said smoothly. Shall I read the DA file again? The judge raised a hand. Enough. Continue, Ms. Simmons. Patricia walked toward the bench, a single photo in her hand, Daisy's unicorn backpack, split open, its false bottom stuffed with pill packets. This was found at the border, Your Honor. Inside a 7-year-old girl's bag. A bag packed by Mrs. Galloway. Gasps rippled through the spectators. I didn't look at Vanessa. I couldn't. Because the truth wasn't new, it was the sound of it echoing in public that made it unbearable. Vanessa's voice broke. I didn't know. Tyler said it was vitamins for his clients. Patricia turned. Mrs. Galloway, your home was under surveillance for 2 weeks. There are recordings of you discussing shipments and moving across the border. I didn't mean to get caught? Patricia's tone was steel wrapped in silk. Or didn't mean to endanger your children? Vanessa's jaw trembled. She looked at me finally, eyes wide, desperate, a silent plea. But I'd given up on reading her eyes months ago. They lied as easily as they cried. The judge sighed. Mrs. Galloway, please stand. Vanessa rose unsteadily, clutching the edge of the table. Did you or did you not forge your husband's signature on a property sale? Yes, but did you or did you not withdraw funds from your joint accounts without consent? Yes. And did you take your children out of Texas to live with a man currently serving a sentence for narcotics trafficking? Tears spilled down her face. I was scared. I thought, Mrs. Galloway, the judge said quietly, what you thought doesn't matter. What you did does. Silence. The gavel came down once, soft but final. Custody is awarded to Mr. Galloway. Mrs. Galloway will have supervised visitation once per month, pending review after 1 year. The sound that came from Vanessa wasn't a cry. It was a collapse, a breath sucked out of her lungs like she'd been struck. Her lawyer put a hand on her shoulder. She shrugged it off. I didn't feel triumph. Just gravity. Like every ounce of anger I'd carried was too heavy to hold now that it had done its job. Outside the courthouse, sunlight hit like a slap. Cameras flashed. Reporters circled. Mr. Galloway! How does it feel to win custody? Mrs. Galloway, did you know about the pills? Do you regret leaving your husband? Vanessa shielded her face, pushing through the noise. But one voice, one cruel, insistent question, caught her mid-step. Your ex-husband says you chose a criminal over your children. Is that true? She froze. Her head snapped toward the reporter. He's lying. He ruined everything. He made me look like a monster. Did you or did you not pack the drugs in your daughter's bag? Vanessa's mouth opened, but nothing came out. That single moment, her silence, went viral before the sun set. By evening, every social feed had the headline. Mother's lies exposed in court. He ruined everything, she says. Her friends turned on her. The same women who toasted her, fresh start, now posted about protecting children from toxic mothers. By morning, she deleted everything, Instagram, Facebook, even her phone number. Rick handed me his phone at the diner that afternoon. It's everywhere, man. She's done. I watched the video replay, Vanessa blinking against the flashbulbs, mascara running, fury and regret tangled in her face. She did this to herself, Rick said. I nodded slowly. No. She just finished what she started. He leaned back, studying me. You don't look happy. Revenge doesn't taste sweet, I said. It just stops tasting bitter. Outside, the Texas sun burned down hard, the same heat that had started it all on that oil rig months ago. But this time, I wasn't under it alone. When I got home, Noah was building a Lego tower on the floor. Daisy was coloring at the table, humming. I stood in the doorway for a long time, just watching. Then Daisy looked up, smiling. Daddy, it's taller than me. I smiled back. Keep building, baby. Don't ever stop. Because in that moment, I realized the truth. You can't rebuild a broken marriage. But you can rebuild a family. And this time, I was doing it right, brick by brick. 6 months later, the world finally stopped spinning. Or maybe it didn't. Maybe I just stopped fighting the wind. The house was smaller now, just a 2-bedroom rental on the edge of Houston, the kind of place you could afford when you weren't chasing appearances. But it was warm. It was ours. I traded the endless grind of the rigs for a management job, fewer bruises, more hours at home. Big Mike said it was about time I stopped breaking my back and started using my head. I told him I didn't know how to do one without the other. Noah was thriving. He'd stopped flinching at loud noises, started smiling again. The nightmares were fading. Daisy still slept with that same stuffed elephant, now missing an ear but still carrying the listening bug I'd hidden months ago. She refused to let me take it out. Said it was Mr. Elephant's secret power. We didn't talk about Vanessa much. When we did, I kept it simple. Mom made mistakes, but she still loves you. It was the truth, or close enough to one. Kids didn't need to carry the weight adults built for themselves. One Saturday afternoon, we were in the garage changing the oil in my truck when I heard the knock. Soft. Hesitant. Familiar. I didn't need to look to know. Vanessa. She stood on the porch, thinner than I remembered, wrapped in a coat 2 sizes too big. Her hair hung dull around her face. Her eyes, once bright and sharp, looked hollowed out, like the desert had finally reached her. Tom, she said, voice trembling. Please. I just need to talk. The kids were inside. I stepped out and closed the door behind me. You shouldn't be here, I said quietly. You're supposed to schedule visits through the center. I know. I lost the car. The phone. The job. She tried to smile, but it cracked halfway. I'm staying at a shelter. I said nothing. The silence between us stretched until it hurt. She wiped at her face. I didn't come for money. I came because I don't know who I am anymore. That hit harder than anything she could have asked for. You're still their mother, I said softly. Her voice broke. Am I? They probably hate me. No, I said. They're kids. They don't hate. They just wait. She looked at me then, really looked, and for the first time in years, there was no blame in her eyes. Only regret. I'm sorry, Tom. For everything. For choosing him. For choosing anything but us. I nodded slowly. You can't unburn a house, Vanessa. You can only stop setting fires. Her lips trembled, but she managed to whisper. You always were better at starting over. I almost told her the truth, that I wasn't better, just luckier. That my starting over came with scars she couldn't see. But instead I just said, take care of yourself. She nodded, stepped back, and turned to leave. Halfway down the path, she stopped and looked over her shoulder. Do you ever think about what we were? I met her eyes, the same ones that once promised forever. Every day, I said. But I'm done living there. She nodded once, swallowed her tears, and walked away. And just like that, the ghost of her, the one I'd been carrying, finally followed her out the door. That night, after I tucked Daisy in and turned off Noah's light, I sat on the back porch with a beer and watched the stars burn holes in the dark. Rick texted, FBI finally closed Becker's file. Cartel ties confirmed. 25 years, no parole. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, let it go. Because that's what the world doesn't tell you about revenge. It's not a weapon, it's a weight. You carry it until you decide to put it down. The air smelled like cut grass and summer rain. Inside, I could hear Noah snoring softly, Daisy mumbling in her sleep. That sound, that fragile peace, was worth more than any victory. I raised my beer toward the sky. To second chances, I said quietly. The real kind. The wind moved through the trees, carrying the words somewhere they needed to go. And for the first time since the day my phone buzzed on that oil rig, I didn't feel hollow. I didn't feel angry. I just felt home. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the kitchen window, landing on Daisy's crayons and Noah's cereal bowl. The world had gone ordinary again, not perfect, but good enough to keep. I poured myself a cup of coffee, looked out the window at the driveway, and saw the oil stains I still hadn't washed off the concrete. Proof of work. Proof of life. And as I stood there, I realized something simple and true. She had taken everything that could be stolen. But what she left behind, that quiet, stubborn piece of me that refused to break, was what I'd needed all along. The storm had passed. And I was still standing,